Welcome to Good News Tucson TV, and today I'm Barney Murray, your host, and I have with me world-class athlete, Gebben Miles, and thanks for coming. I appreciate you joining me today.
Yes, sir.
So I met Gebben at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes luncheon, which is held Bible study on the U of A campus every week, and invited him to share his story with us today. So tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I grew up in Tucson, born and raised here. I've got three younger sisters. We kind of started out in the middle of town, around South Point High School area, and then eventually moved out to the east side, and ended up going to high school at Sabino High School. And growing up, was very much into sports. Played golf, basketball, baseball. Wanted to play football, but my mom was afraid I would get injured, so she wanted me to kind of stay focused on basketball and golf more than some other sports, and just very, very sport oriented. And you did mention I'm a world-class athlete. When I was about 12 years old, I got into the sport of sporting clays. Just kind of moderately. I did it for fun, and then some injuries in basketball actually kind of really put a damper on both basketball and golf. In high school, I ended up breaking my left elbow, and I couldn't swing right for a few years, and those are a couple things that led me into taking shooting a little bit more serious.
Okay, so golf is out, football was definitely out, basketball, and you said you played baseball? Or?
I did play baseball a little bit. Yeah, I didn't mention that, but yeah, I love baseball, and yeah, that elbow thing kind of hurt on all those sports.
All of those.
Yeah.
So those are gone, and then you started to focus on shooting.
Yeah. So about a month after I broke my elbow, I was 15 years old, getting prepared for opening day of my freshman year in basketball, and 3 days before that, bam, break my elbow at a friend's house. Actually, a pastor in town here named Pat McClanahan. It was at Pat's house for his son Mark's birthday, and yeah, a month after that, I was just doing nothing. I was on painkillers. They put 2 screws in my elbow, and I could only move it about this far.
Wow.
And I was just kind of bummed, and my dad and I had been shooting for about 3 years prior to that, and the way shooting works is so the type of shooting I do is called sporting clays, and sporting clays is kind of like golf with a shotgun. You're on a course that has 10 to 15 different stations. Each station has a pair of targets that ranges as far as say 80 yards away, as close as 10, crossing, coming at you, looping, basically whatever you can imagine a little clay target doing. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I had been doing that for fun, but and I had reached a level of competition that was advanced. The way that the competitions go is we have master class, which is like pro, and then AA, A, B, C, D, and E class. And at the time I was an A class shooter, averaging about 80% out of 100 in competitions, and my highest score before that month after I broke my elbow was an 85 out of 100. So my dad said, "Hey, let's go up to Phoenix. There's a shooting tournament. You know, you're sitting around the house doing nothing. You're on pain meds and just bumming." And so he's like, "Let's go up to this tournament and just kind of get out of the house, have a little fun." Mm-hmm. And I go and I shoot a 98 out of 100 at this tournament. And
after the break. After
the break, yeah. A month after the broken elbow, moving it this far, and go out and win this tournament. And that's really the start of what led me to believe that I do have some talent in shooting, and maybe there is a future. And then kind of going through high school, I just kind of thought, you know what? There's no real future in shooting. Like, the pros don't make very much money. I'm not really big into the industry, like the gun and the shells and stuff like that. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna rehab. I'm gonna try to get back on the golf course. I'm gonna try to get back on the basketball court, because at the time my heart wanted to be a professional golfer, and it was a struggle though. I couldn't get my swing down. Like when I was 9.
And this is still in your late teens.
Yeah, this is 16, 17, and growing up, I was actually a pretty accomplished golfer. When I was 9, I started competing, and there's a local junior golf tour here called the Ricky Rarick that I actually won the tournament champions one year for my division when I was 9, and had done really well. Played in the JGAA, which is a junior golf tour more around the state and stuff, and was a great golfer. So that's really where my heart was, and when my golf swing wasn't happening, you know, the shooting was still kind of in the back of my head, but I was like, you know what, let's see how far I can rehab and see how far I can take basketball, because it was my left arm and I'm a right-handed shooter. So I was like, you know, I can work on my shot, maybe become like a Steve Kerr type thing, and
work around your
right.
Yeah.
And so ended up actually rehabbing, getting pretty much full range of motion back by my senior year of high school, and I had some pretty good years my junior and senior year, but had kind of I started developing bursitis in both my knees, and just had some kind of nagging knee injuries that held me back a little bit, and some smaller colleges were looking at me for basketball. I didn't really know if I wanted to go to a smaller college, and then some doors started opening up in the shooting community. I ended up making the junior Team USA when I was 17 years old, I still though didn't have my heart completely in shooting at the time, and then some sponsors started picking me up and whatnot, and my dad, after I graduated high school, was like, you know, Gebben, you've never really put all your focus on shooting. Like, you've put a lot of focus into golf and basketball, and it just seems like that might not be the plan for your life is in those sports. And you know, that kind of made me question things, made me step back a little bit and start asking, well, you know, maybe what is my life plan? But as these doors open in shooting, I started getting better and better at shooting, and this was right around 2003, 2004, and I ended up working with a coach, started really developing my skills in shotgun shooting, and in 2005 I won my first major championship. And
were you still in high school then?
No, I was in college. So
okay.
Yeah, my freshman year of college, I went to a school in St. Louis that actually started a shooting program, but things didn't work out there. I did end up winning like the collegiate nationals, but it was kind of a step down from like the pro level that I was competing at while I was actually still in high school. But anyway, so I had moved back to Tucson and had been training here end of 2004 into 2005, and when I won my first big shoot, I mean, you know, I loved that. Like I felt like you know, I was kind of worth something there, you know, and my heart really started going towards shooting, and I started getting better and better, and really in my life shooting became an idol, and at the time too, like I said, I was going to college at the U of A, and I wasn't walking with the Lord there my first couple of years of college. I guess we haven't really gotten my spiritual background much yet, but yeah, first couple of years of college wasn't really walking with the Lord. I kind of grew up in the church, but strayed away a bit in those high school and first couple years of college.
Right.
And shooting was a huge idol that when I kind of realized the darkness that I was living in, and God basically pulled me out of that darkness, I was really close to completely giving up shooting, and I went through about a 3-month period where I recognized that I hadn't been walking with the Lord at all, and so focused on shooting, and I had a lot of worldly motivations, and those motivations were kind of always inconsistent. They were always up and down. And shooting is very much a mental game. When you learn, the physical techniques, those can be mastered, and then at the top level, probably like most sports, it's very, very mental. And so I was always just up and down, all over the place, and every time I'd win, it was great, and then every time I wouldn't, I would think kind of less of myself,
Right.
And so I guess where I'm going with that is God made me realize that shooting is a complete idol. So I took this 3-month period off just to kind of analyze things, and that's also a time where I started really kind of questioning what I believe. How do I know God is really real? And do I really believe that what I believe is real? And questions that started getting in deep to kind of the roots of my soul.
Right.
And so a girl in the shooting community, this would have been in the summer of 2006, asked me if I was a Christian or not, and it really my lips said yes, but in my heart I was questioning things like, okay, how do I know if I'm really a Christian? And so in the midst of those questions, God put the right people in my life at the right time, and what ended up happening was I got connected with a ministry on campus called Athletes in Action, a ministry geared towards athletes, and these guys that I met there and girls really showed me what it looked like to understand that we have these gifts, these athletic gifts, most of them, and try to figure out how to use those to glorify God. And so it made me reevaluate shooting, and I started beginning to look at shooting from a different perspective, and we'll get to that a little bit later, but I was beginning to kind of learn how to worship God through sport. And
okay, that's really interesting, and when we come back from the break, we'll continue, because your transformation as a godly athlete seems to be the path that many have taken, and but we'll ask you more about that when we come back from the break. We'll be right back. to Good News Tucson TV. We're talking with Gebben Miles, world-class shooter. And you were talking before and when we took the break about what happened in college. You spent sounds like your entire life around other athletes. Do you find that your story is real similar to the rest of them, those that have come to Christ, where sports is so much a part of them they lose focus?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got a different story, but very similar concepts within that story. You know, God's gonna use everybody, no matter where they're at, no matter what they've done, to somehow bring glory to Him. But as far as from an athletic standpoint, yeah, I've met a lot of athletes, and it's usually a couple things. It's usually sport, and or someone from the opposite sex becomes like an idol, becomes basically, you know, if sport maybe is their root idol, either like relationships or fame or money or things like that, are kind of a side idol, and you know, we unfortunately use these worldly motivators as our ultimate form of motivation, and in and of themselves they're not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But if our ultimate motivation for doing what we do isn't God's love, isn't the perspective of what Christ did on the cross for us, then basically our performance is going to be fluctuating all the time. And so I've found that, and we'll probably get into this a little bit deeper, but I've found that if Christ's love for me is my ultimate motivation, then I can have a consistent motivator while I'm in competition. So.
Okay. The question comes to mind where up to college at the U of A, in the time that you went through this transformation, this spiritual growth, you were an accomplished athlete in multiple sports. How did it go from, or how do you balance perfecting that skill to, or at what point in time did you realize that this was a God-given talent and not just practice?
Well, I mean, practice is definitely a huge key to be able to reach a level of success in whatever you're doing. But
skill.
Yeah, but you know, really, where I started to realize that my life was completely orchestrated by God was certain things that would happen in my life that God would almost be like a covering for me, or He would just like keep me out of certain situations that I didn't need to be in at the time, and or like saving me from certain things, from certain poor decisions, and so you know, really it's kind of those like in Scripture you'll see like but God, and it's like these but God instances that it's like, you know, I look back on something that happened yesterday and I was like, man, that was totally God. And so really in college, being part of this group Athletes in Action, going to their Bible studies and their weekly meetings, and meeting people that were truly living with Christ, and seeing the joy that they had, really the light that God put inside of them, was something that I wanted. And I just, you know, looking back in my life, I'd always seen myself as kind of a good person, you know, trying to do the right thing, right? But I didn't realize how sin sick I was, and so many people don't, especially in the athletic world in America. Like, athletes are viewed with such high esteem, right?
Celebrity status.
Exactly, like, you know, we can do no wrong type thing.
Right.
And so I think that that type of mentality almost puts puts a blind over how sinful our nature really is. And so, really, when I started realizing that stuff towards my latter part of college, that's when, and it's I don't think it's coincidence that my performance level as a top shooter started kind of rising with holding that type of perspective. And in 2008, I partook in this camp called the Ultimate Training Camp that Athletes in Action puts on, and it's a camp that teaches athletes 5 principles about incorporating their faith into sport, and it's basically the gospel spoken in the language of sport. And this camp, at the end of the camp, you partake in a deal called the special, and the special is basically a 24-hour competition that is designed to physically and emotionally and spiritually break you down to where you have nothing left inside of you but to rely on the strength of Christ to get you through. And so at this camp, that's when I really learned how to surrender my entire life to Christ. And I heard people who had went through this camp previous years, and how they experienced this full brokenness, like this full spiritual surrender of everything that they had. And I had given my life to Christ, but I didn't really know exactly what it looked like to give all of my life. Like I'd given my heart, but then there would still be these parts from my old sinful nature that I wanted control of. And at this camp, I really experienced that full surrender, and that's when I learned how to use my sport as a real act of worship, and that kind of led into doing something really unique in my sport. In the fall of 2008, I started at every competition that I would go to. I would hold a Bible study and or like a pre-shoot chapel, and because I knew I had some influence in the shooting community. In 2007, I finished 5th in the world at the World Championships, and I started gaining some momentum. I'd been on the men's Team USA, had won several shoots, had won like Arizona State shoot probably 5 years in a row at that point and stuff. And so when I started doing these Bible studies, I knew that I had to actually live out the gospel. Okay? After this camp, I knew that I had to use my sphere of influence to make Jesus famous. And because that's the most important thing. I mean, win or lose, no matter what, the most important thing is to share our story. That is a small part of God's story. And so, and I just wanted so desperately to teach the shooting community how much God loves them and God's plan for their individual lives, and what Christ did for them on the cross, and just really living out the gospel and serving that shooting community. And so and I as a professional shooter, we also have to coach as well. And so I kind of also used every coaching opportunity as an opportunity to share the gospel, and I still do that. So every single time that I get out and instruct someone, I'll kind of share with them, really maybe a little bit of the gospel here, a little bit of the gospel
so
there.
they can expect, if you show up, to hear about Christ.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
So I was given a bad time about how do you go into a competitive environment where the objective is to win, and you want to hold a Bible study with your competitors. I said, do you feel like you're forfeiting your divine advantage, or is your concern, and it sounds like your concern is more about not necessarily the competition, but using the platform that God has given you?
Exactly. I mean, that's my biggest concern is really to use that platform. And it's been interesting, as I've used that platform, God has really opened up the doors necessary for me to actualize my potential. Okay, so understanding understanding how good I can be. Like, I've had a lot of people tell me, Gebben, you know, you can be the best in the world, and my coach specifically, he's a great motivator, and I mean, he's really helped me realize how good I can be, and that stuff kind of came to fruition in 2009. I won our national championship in San Antonio, and that really, the platform that I was spreading the gospel on before then kind of exponentially grew overnight. And so, and I mean, as I've been faithful to God's calling, like, I'm probably having more and more questions than I do answers, but some of the answers that God has shown me over the years, you know, now I can share with the shooting community, and as I'm faithful in that, God kind of keeps opening up doors for me to train harder, get better, understand really the magnitude of the gifts that He's given me, so that I can, you know, bless other people and show, you know, and really show them God's love. And as a result of that, you know, one of my biggest goals in shooting specifically was to win the World Championships, because I had beaten some of the guys who were at the top of the game at some smaller tournaments, not at the World Championships, and this year in August in Chicago, I finally was able to pull off a World Championship.
Yeah, I saw that in the news, and we've talked about it, and I've seen it at FCA and on your websites and things, and on Facebook, and it really did my heart good, because we had talked briefly before then, and you have such a humble demeanor about you that to see you at the top with the very best at the best, it seems like the more you gave away, it didn't cost you anything. It didn't diminish what God had for you. He just, the more you gave away, the more He's empowered you, the more ability He's given you. Yeah. And it was just great to see. So tell me about now that you've got this platform and you've got an audience, you've got credibility, and you're respected in the field, in the shooting community. You've kind of branched off into sharing the gospel, but there are other things you said that you're instructing, and I know you've got a business going on. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, well, I actually did start coaching shooting when I was 17 years old, just to kind of raise funds to be able to shoot, because shooting is an expensive sport, and so that business in and of itself has kind of started to grow, and especially after I won the national championship, and I had been playing around with the idea of putting together an instructional DVD, and I started working on that last January, and we launched it actually at the World Championships in August. So kind of perfect timing for that. And the name of that video is called Quiet Dust Shooting, and then and I've got a logo on my shirt, QDS, and we're kind of building a brand around that video. And we're about to launch a clothing line, and it's kind of cool because we've got a lot of things that we want to do in the future. We learned a lot from this video. I mean, it's by no means perfect, but it is really good, and it's already said to be one of the top videos out there right now for my discipline of shooting, and so got some future plans of just creating more videos, maybe do a bunch of little smaller ones, maybe release one a month eventually, and then maybe one or two big ones a year and stuff like that, and continuing to coach, and then what I'd ultimately like to do, as I do hopefully make some more money, is I want to start an organization within the shooting community that goes to help funding things like like human trafficking, like
Mm-hmm.
like sex slave trafficking.
Right.
You know, people who are born into slavery. I mean, there's more slaves on Earth right now than there ever have been in the history of the world. There's 27 million slaves on Earth right now, and that's happening on our watch.
Yes.
That's happening
Yes.
on the Church of Jesus Christ in 2012's watch, and you know, I don't want to be a part of that.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm really wanting to kind of help fund those type of operations. That stuff came to me, that knowledge came to me at the Passion Conference last year, and listening to a lady named Christine Kane talk and share what her organization does and stuff. And so anyway, yeah, I'm hoping to kind of build up to making a pretty big impact, and opening up opportunities for people in the shooting community to
Right.
give in ways that they might not have thought before. So
Well, God bless you for that. So, in closing, let us know how to get in contact with you, because I know you've got
Sure.
a number of venues that we
Yeah.
can find you.
well, so yeah, GebbenMiles.com is about to kind of get revamped and mesh with Quiet-Shooting.com. Both of those websites have my contact information, and then I'm on Facebook and Twitter and all that. So
Okay. Do you tweet often?
I've started to tweet more. When I first got on Twitter, didn't really tweet too much, but I'm starting to tweet more and more, especially as some of my friends from college and then the last couple of years are kind of getting more into professional sports in a bigger light than shooting. They're tweeting more and more, and so that's kind of a way that I'm staying in touch with
Gotcha.
some people from the U.
So, if you had the opportunity and you do via the video, and if you had to talk to, junior and senior high athletes, based on your experience, what would your parting words of wisdom be for them?
I would say don't let your sport become an idol. God alone is worthy of our complete focus, and He's given you abilities. He's given you opportunities to partake in these sports. He's given you the athletic talent that you have, and just do not let sport become an idol. And then also, secondly, is let the love of Christ be your ultimate motivation. And if you can do those things, God will really help organize your thoughts into a consistent way of thinking. And in sports, so many times people talk about the mental game, and that's
Right.
really what the mental game is all about, having a consistent thought process. And the most consistent thought process out there is the mind of Christ. And God calls His family saints. He says that when we put our faith in Him, that we become His child, and He renews our mind as we get into His Word, as we study the attributes of God and what He's all about. He's going to renew our mind and allow us to really actualize our potential in whatever He's blessed us to do. And so, yeah, that's the most important thing.
Well, thank you, and that is a good word. We thank you for tuning in. We thank you for coming and stopping by again. We wish you the best of luck and Godspeed. That's our show for today. God loves you. Bye now.